Hey guys, and welcome back to the Odd Socks channel. Today we are doing another deep dive completion review. And what's a deep dive completion review, you may ask? Where it's where I need to complete a game from start to finish. It doesn't matter how many load states or save states I use, as long as I complete the game before I do this review. And what game are we looking at today? Well, today we're looking at Bad Dudes from the Data East Collection, Arcade Purple Cart number 2. For the purposes of the review, we're just going to refer to the Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja as Bad Dudes. But let's have a quick look at some of the other games that come on the Data East Arcade 1 collection. Burger Time, Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja, Gates of Doom, Wizard Fire, Breakthrough, Tumble Pop, Darwin 4078, Sly Spy, Chain Reaction, and Lock and Chase. Bad Dudes is a side-scrolling beat-em-up arcade game developed and released by Data East in 1988. It's where you play either as Blade or Striker as they fight their way through levels filled with enemies, and the goal is quite simple: rescue the President of the United States who has been kidnapped, you guessed it, by friggin' ninjas. The plot revolves around the president's kidnapping, and the bad dudes are sent to rescue him. The story is light on detail, focusing primarily on the action-packed gameplay. The game allows for 2-player cooperative play, which was a big draw for the arcade goers back in the day, and it also features several different stages with varying enemies, including ninjas, gangsters, and other martial artists. And just like many arcade games back in the day, Bad Dudes, you start with 3 lives, and obviously each time you die, you lose a life, resulting in you feeding this arcade game with more and more quarters. In this video, I'll be ranking Bad Dudes' story, sound, and gameplay, and also sharing with you my Evercade stats on how long it took me to get there, and if I used heaps of save states or not. But before we do that, let's have a quick look, and I'm going to give you some interesting facts from Data East and the game Bad Dudes. In the late 1980s, Bad Dudes achieved some success in the arcades because it was known for its 2-player co-op and tough difficulty. The game was ported to several home consoles, including the NES, Sega Genesis, Commodore 64, and Amiga, which increased its fan base. Data East was founded in 1976 in Japan by Tetsuo Fuduka. The company initially focused on manufacturing arcade game hardware and software. Data East is well known for a variety of influential games, including the 1980s and early 90s. Some of their most famous titles include, obviously, Bad Dudes, Karate Champ, Boulder Dash, Joe and Mac, and Windjammers. In the 1980s, Data East created the Deco cassette system, which allowed arcade operators to change games quickly by swapping cassette-like cartridges. This system helped Data East release a wide variety of games while keeping arcade cabinets more versatile. After their bankruptcy in 1999, they sold off a lot of their IP assets like Bad Dudes, and these were acquired by Taito, another major Japanese game developer. Taito, known for games like Space Invaders and Bubble Bobble, begins distributing and managing the rights to these older games. As part of Taito's ownership, Bad Dudes gets re-released through various retro gaming collections, emulated versions, and downloadable content for modern platforms. The game appears now on digital services like PlayStation Network, Xbox Live Arcade, and in collections on platforms like Steam, as well as Evercade Cart number 2 from the Data East collection. To its present day, Bad Dude remains a cult classic with a nostalgic fan base. The game is still available for play on various platforms, and Taito holds the rights for any future releases or adaptations related to the game. The marquee art features the bold Bad Dudes logo in graffiti-style font with a black outline emphasizing the game's tough Street Fighter aesthetic. The artwork predominantly showcases Blade and Striker, the 2 main characters, posed in fighting stances with clenched fists, excluding to a classic 1980s action hero vibe. The background often includes a city skyline, reinforcing the urban setting and gritty atmosphere of the game. The panel design often integrates black and red elements, keeping the aggressive and action-packed theme consistent. The bezel art, which is the art surrounding the screen, features additional illustrations of Blade and Striker, often in mid-action fight poses, enhancing the immersive feel. Some of the versions of the bezel include enemy ninja designs, hinting at some of the enemies that players will face in the game. The arcade art for Bad Dude reflects a 1980s action movie poster style similar to Hollywood martial arts films of the era, which we like Big Trouble in Little China and Bloodsport. The emphasis on bold, high contrast colours and dynamic character poses was designed to attract players from a distance into the arcades. Like many arcade games of the time, Bad Dudes used exaggerated muscle-bound characters and urban-themed designs to appeal to fans of martial arts and action-packed beat-em-ups. Let's now take a look at the story. So you're tasked with rescuing the president in Bad Dudes because you're one of the toughest street fighters around, and the president has been kidnapped by ninjas, and only you and your partner Striker are tough enough to take on the threat and bring him back. The job is simple: fight your way through waves of ninjas and defeat powerful bosses, all to save the president and restore order. It's all about proving you're bad enough to handle the job. Let's now talk about the sound. The sound in Bad Dudes is designed to match the game's high-energy, action-packed vibe. The synth-driven music pumps you up as you fight through ninjas with fast-paced beats, setting the tone for each level. Punches, kicks, and explosions hit with satisfying sound effects, while the occasional voice clips like "I'm bad" add a bit of fun and an iconic touch. The president's laugh at the end, offering a burger as a reward, adds a quirky, memorable moment to the soundscape. It's all about creating the classic arcade feel: loud, bold, and full of action. Bad Dudes' energetic, synth-heavy tracks, punchy sound effects that help define the arcade experience of the time. Bad Dudes' sound helped contribute to the game's memorable audio atmosphere, from its music to its classic sound bites. Let's now talk about the gameplay. Bad Dudes features straightforward side-scrolling beat-em-up gameplay where you control either Blade or Striker and fight through levels filled with ninjas, bosses, and obstacles. The controls are simple, allowing you to move left or right, jump and attack with punches and kicks. You can also perform jump kicks and pick up weapons like knives, bombs, or nunchucks to deal extra damage. The fighting mechanics are a bit stiff with limited combos, but each attack feels satisfying and the enemies are designed to be challenging yet beatable. The game is known for its fast-paced action with waves of enemies attacking from both the left and right sides of the screen. As you progress through the levels, the difficulty increases, introducing new enemy types and tougher bosses. The two-player mode makes it more enjoyable, allowing you to team up with a friend to tackle the game together. Though the movement and controls can feel a bit sluggish, it adds to the nostalgic feel of the game. Overall, Bad Dudes is about quick reflexes, memorizing enemy patterns, and utilizing weapons to maximize your damage output. While it doesn't have the depth of more complex beat-em-ups, it delivers plenty of fun, arcade-style action with a simple, effective control scheme. Now, I picked up the Data East collection for the Evercade for $37.61, but there's 10 games on this system, so we have to actually just say, if I'm just playing Bad Dudes, I paid $3.76 for it. It means for me to get my $10 per hour limit, I would need to play the game for longer than 23 minutes to get my money worth. And I can say that I just beat that limit, where I played and completed the game in 32 minutes. I had a play count of 2, I did not use any load counts, and I saved it 5 times whilst playing on the Evercade. This equates for me for achieving my $10 per hour goal, which means I got $7.05 per hour of value from this game. I rate the story a 5 out of 10. It has a tongue-in-cheek attitude that does not take itself seriously. It reminds me very much of the 80s action movies of its time, and the story is as simple as it gets. But that's part of the charm. The president has been kidnapped by ninjas, Friggin' ninjas! And it's up to two tough street fighters, Blade and Striker, to save him. No deep lore, no twist, just pure 80s action movie logic. What it does lack in depth, the ridiculous premise makes up for it. The famous line, "Are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president?" became legendary, and the burger eating ending is just so absurd, it's great. What is this burger eating ending, you ask? Well, after fighting an army of ninjas, defeating fire-breathing bosses, and risking your life, your reward is not cash, it's not anything else, it's just to go out and have a burger with the president. That's no medals, no secret government missions, just a casual fast food trip. The ending became a cult classic and it was referred to in gaming culture. The phrase, "Are you a bad enough dude?" is still used today as a joke about old school tough guy action troops. The idea of a president offering burgers instead of a real reward is peak 1980s arcade logic. Simple, cheesy, and weirdly unforgettable. Would you have preferred a better reward, or is a burger with a president the ultimate flex?
This is a tasty burger.
Let's see what I rate the sound. I rate the Bad Dude sound a 7 out of 10. The soundtrack is pure 80s arcade greatness with fast-paced, high-energy chiptunes that keep the action intense. Punchy synth-driven beats fits perfectly with the street brawler ninja fighting vibe. The title screen music is a standout, getting you pumped to be a bad dude. The game also features satisfying attack sounds. The punches and kicks have a crunchy impact feel. The enemy grunt and hit reactions add to the arcade style fun. And some explosions and boss fights sounds a bit generic, but they do the job. What made me laugh at the end of each level was the game features digitalized voice samples, which was rare for the time, of the iconic characters raising their arms and saying, "I'm bad," after completing a level. It's simple but iconic. The music keeps the energy high and the sound effects are punchy and the voice clips add personality. Some sounds can be repetitive, but for an 80s arcade brawler, Bad Dudes delivers a solid audio experience. Let's now rate the gameplay. I give the gameplay a 6 out of 10. The characters are larger than life, are detailed, and they're a standout moment of the game itself. It is easy to track the action because they're just so big on the screen. The attacks feel solid with punches, kicks, and jump kicks forming the core combat. And you can pick up knives and nunchucks for extra damage, adding a little bit of variety. The screen fills up a wide range of ninjas, keeping the action consistent. Different enemy colours indicate varying difficulties, but enemy variety is limited, and most of the time they just rush at you. The boss fights do mix things up a little bit, but some feel a little bit cheap and overly difficult. While moving your character around, the walking feels a little bit slow, making dodging attacks a little bit tricky, but jumping between the two fighting planes, which is the ground and the higher platforms, isn't as smooth as it is in other beat-em-ups. The attacks land with decent feedback, but the hit detection isn't perfect, and sometimes where you're thinking you're hitting a punch, you're just that little bit too far away. The game is hard even for an arcade brawler, designed to eat quarters. The boss fights require memorizing patterns, but sometimes just feels a little unfair. Bad Dudes is an enjoyable arcade game with big, bold action, and that's perfect for short bursts of gameplay. Overall, I rate Bad Dudes a 6 out of 10. It's clunky, repetitive, and not exactly a high point of the beat-em-up genre, but I still had more fun with it than I probably should have. A big part of that comes down to its over-the-top, straight out of the 80s action movie vibe. The game's plot, rescuing the president from an army of ninjas, feels like something ripped from the same playbook as Commando or Cobra, where muscle-bound heroes take on ridiculous odds with nothing but their fists, a few one-liners, and an endless supply of confidence. The main characters, Blade and Striker, they might as well be background extras in a Jean-Claude Van Damme or Chuck Norris flick, throwing punches and spin kicks like they're auditioning for Bloodsport or American Ninja. Even though the gameplay is basic and a bit stiff, the old school charm kept me going. The relentless waves of enemies, the cheesy voice samples, and the pure arcade style simplicity reminded me of those VHS era action films that weren't exactly great, but were undeniably entertaining. If you grow up on a steady diet of over-the-top 80s action, Bad Dudes have just enough of that absurd charm to keep things fun, at least for a little while. Well, that's it for another deep dive completion review. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please remember to give me a like, subscribe, and put a comment down below. I love to see your comments, and I promise I'll respond to each and every one of them. In the comments, also put your Evercade stats if you've managed to get through Bad Dudes, and let me know what you think of the overall story. We'll see you next time on the Odd Socks.